Questa is a technology advisory firm. We're a boutique firm and specializing in partnering with private equity companies. We do a lot of technology due diligence, so both buy side and sell side, evaluating technologies on prospective purchases. And then a large part of our business is also doing data services for these portfolio companies. Where the company started was through those due diligences, we would expose an opportunity to utilize data within that company, and that opportunity continued to come up, and we had specialization in it, and we've just kind of snowballed the business. We use Keboola quite a lot, especially in companies that are completely greenfield projects. So these are businesses where you ask the average person in the company, or maybe someone in leadership, and they might not even know what a data warehouse is. So Keboola is great because it's all in one, it gets going really quickly, and it provides time to value really quickly. We do, a lot of our projects is kind of in the style of, we share pretty similar philosophy in doing a business data model. We do it in the style kind of like a EDW, enterprise data warehouse style. So, we do like to have data engineers that have worked in those sort of environments that have pretty structured data warehouse standards in terms of the build. One of the cool things, for example, is we've been hiring these roles we call visualization engineers, which, you would kind of expect that most of their time is spent in Tableau or Power BI, maybe 80 to 90% of their time is doing dashboarding. But when we hire them, we also make a requirement that they know SQL. And what I've found is once a project is at a certain maturity point and we establish some of the data pipelines, what they can do is they can read those data pipelines and they recognize some of the patterns in the ways that we build. And now those visualization engineers are starting to write their own SQL data pipelines because all they need to know is SQL. They look at past patterns in which the project is run, so they can kind of write their own. Very often they are asking data engineers or the project lead to ask if they can merge or approve the code and get some code checks before going in. And it's great because they can actually structure the data in which they need it, for which they're serving themselves on the visualization side, right? And so they can, build their own data marts and have it served up in Power BI exactly like they want it. Certainly, we're looking at both hard skills and soft skills. So in terms of technical skills, we hire across a few different roles, of course. So in the data analyst and data engineer and visualization engineer roles, we definitely expect them to be able to write SQL. Some of those roles, of course, they need to know some Python. Also, I'm finding more and more. So for example, me, I'm a SQL guy. I'm not a Python guy at all. But during the last couple of days, I've been talking to some people, and you guys have been talking a lot about data apps. So I was inspired. So last night I wrote my first data app.
Yay!
Thank you. I mean, the great thing was that I had to prompt ChatGPT maybe 3 times to get me the correct code. There was one additional line of Python that I copy and paste off of the Keboola library, the Popeye library. I was able to launch it and integrate it, right? So, I mean, I do think that the requirements of the technical ability is continually going lower and lower. I was able to, build a useful app within a few hours that's fully in code, even though I don't code. In a way, the large SaaS are probably going to get broken down and they'll get chipped away by maybe even smaller mini SaaS. Maybe me and you will write something on the weekend and come up with a SaaS that just does some small thing and maybe make a couple $100 a month or something like that. But I think the point being that AI opens up the world of development so that people that have an idea and can kind of just use AI to launch a small product and monetize it and maybe chip away the incumbents. And of course, on top of that, companies that have a way of building these applications internally and are able to launch it, then of course they're going to be able to replace features. I was really shocked to listen and watch your presentation yesterday talking about company values and your big, hairy, audacious goal and your 10-year plan. And when I was looking at it, I was like, that looks like the exact same thing that we had, whenever probably 6-7 years ago, it's like 90% the same, right? I think there was like a little change in it where you just add like using AI for the data operating system, and it seems to really fit hand in hand. I think one of the biggest eye-openers recently is, when we talk about Keboola versus XYZ other tool, it's always something around ETL or ELT, of course, but what Keboola brings is everything on top of that. So like those things, these are like data warehouse use cases. But now in a world when the customers are asking for AI, these other companies, they're adding chatbots into their product, but you guys are actually helping with creating AI applications for new applications for the customers themselves, exactly like we're talking around building the data apps. So I think this is like one of the really large differentiators is like, with those tools, it's like, okay, great. Now your data engineers and your data analysts have access to AI. What you're helping with is empowering the data engineers and the data analysts in order to create their own AI apps for the rest of the company. Like a pretty typical use case, like outside of BI, but within the kind of ecosystem that we live in, is doing like automated reporting. And so those are kind of like the automation of the operational processes, right? This is what we live and breathe, is like automating Excel so that there's no more VLOOKUPs and macros and getting people out of Excel, right? And it feels like the next step definitely is it's not just like the automation, but empowering them to then also interact with the data, right? The old world is like, we automate it and now you have it in a dashboard. And then now it's actually like, okay, what are the buttons or what are the inputs and what are the insights that it can kind of serve me. So one of the use cases that we do for all our customers is getting their data better prepared. And so we create lots of reports we call exception reports. So it's like, here are records that are missing the close date on closed opportunities, or missing some important information, or transactions that are $10 billion that shouldn't be there. And so we have lots of these exception reports, and sometimes that record, it's actually completely valid that it's missing this thing. So what we need the ability to do is drop that record from that report again. And so the app allows for the user to select the record and then push that record back into Keboola. So that the next time that record doesn't process again. Like before, what we would always do would be like, okay, here's a Google spreadsheet to go and enter the ID, and people will screw up that Google sheet all the time. And now it's just living right beside the data.